Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Brett's Flicks. So, with it being spooky month, I decided that what better time than to review James Wan's newest horror film, Malignant. So, what did I think of Malignant? Well, we're about to find out, because let's watch this movie. I knew it! Okay, so, Malignant. I'm going to start off by saying I really like James Wan as a director. Saw is quite possibly one of the best and most influential horror films of the past decade.
I want to play a game.
That film did so much with so little. It's a testament to what a filmmaker can do with a little budget and a lot of imagination.
Live or die. Make your choice.
He did an incredible job, and that was a wonderful break into the film scene. He also has had wonderful hits in other parts of the horror genre with the Conjuring franchise, directing the first two flagship films and producing the rest. He also did the Insidious franchise, and he recently has burst into the DC realm with Aquaman. Honestly, that film was only as good as it was because he was director. James Wan has a really great flair for the dramatic. He knows what his genre is, and he knows how to embrace that, both visually and storyline-wise. Each of his films fully embrace tropes of the genre, but they do it in a loving manner, and they are boasted by his impeccable camera movements and cinematography. That's part of what helps him stand out from the rest of your typical horror director flair. That being said, there's a lot of problems here with Malignant. It's definitely my least... This is, in my opinion, James's worst film.
Word.
And it's partially because of the tone. Now, I'm going to get to that in a minute, because I first will summarize this film for you. And that is... woman who is abused by her husband, suffers a head injury and a miscarriage because of his actions. And after that, she then starts to have horrific visions, and she starts witnessing a killer, a masked killer, murdering people she doesn't know who they are. She's completely unaware of who this is, who they're killing, why they're killing. All she knows is all of a sudden she's having visions of these murders. And so the story is about her trying to find her connection to the murderer and why she's having these visions and stuff.
Did you know her?
No.
But I saw her die.
So, because of that, right there, unfortunately, our main character doesn't really do much in this film.
I was doing laundry and
Most of her time spent on film is used just wondering what the hell is going on. She is a passive observer, witnessing these horrible memories, freaking out, and then waking up in her bed or wherever she is and wondering, the hell is going on? She doesn't take any actual forward steps to solving the problem until nearly an hour into the movie when she goes to the police. And then her only other steps after that take active effect against the plot and the mechanics is when she goes to talk to her mother, and then when she fights at the end, which is literally in the last 10 minutes of the film. So that's probably problem number one. Your main character should be a lot more active in your film. Annabelle Wallis is the same actress who starred in Annabelle, the film about the killer doll, the first one, and she gives a better performance here. James is definitely a better director, and he knows how to get some emotion out of her better than the previous stuff I've seen her in. That being said, because she doesn't really have much to do, she's kind of left floundering.
I was doing laundry
And honestly, some of this dialogue is not helping any of the performances.
What's the matter, Pollyanna?
You get lost on the way to the country club.
What's up with this moment where she just blurts out that she's adopted, which I guess is new information to the sister, and then we just move on and transition with a weird-ass music video type sting?
Mom told me that my biological mother died during my birth. Sydney, I'm adopted.
It's weird, and brings up one of my other issues with this film. The music choices. No thank you. This film likes to use "Where Is My Mind" for several transitionary moments. And it doesn't work. Number one, it comes across as far too music video-y. Number two, the choice in song with the lyrics, "Where is my mind," is far too on the nose for what is actually going on in the film. And number three, it doesn't really seem to fit with what's happening in that moment. We have a quiet moment, and then it's immediately broken up by this odd vocal interaction just to transition to a new part of the plot.
Sydney, I'm adopted.
It's very weird and almost seems like the result of not knowing how to transition from one plot point to the next. There are other odd music choices within the film. Like when they use the Brian Ferry song "Painted Smile," it seems like it's a choice based on homaging films from the 80s and that kind of odd, wacky tone that they used to have. But here, it really feels out of place. Part of that is because of how the film likes to go about its plot. Now, I'm going to get into some spoiler territory here because it's important to talk about the reveal at the end in order to know why some of these decisions don't fully work. The end of the film reveals that our main character has a living tumor inside of her brain that used to be a part of her body, kind of like an embryonic twin that attached itself to her in utero and grew. And we see revealing footage of when she was a child, and there's like a mutated creature, like a twin that's a parasitic twin that's like feeding off of her. Except it's kind of like they say it's like a living tumor. And when she was a child, they removed it except for part of it is connected to her brain. So if they kill it, they kill her because they share the same brain. So there's only so much they could do. So the big reveal is the killer is your main character who basically loses consciousness, and the tumor takes over her brain, takes over her body, and is using her body to get revenge on the doctors that chopped him off and, made her forget about him. Pretty wacky, pretty ridiculous, and very clearly an homage to wacky splatter comedies of the 80s like Brain Damage.
Whenever you want to stop hurting, you come to me.
And Evil Dead.
You will die! Like the others before you.
And Reanimator.
You'll never get credit for my discovery. Who's going to believe a talking head? Get a job in a sideshow.
These films that did not take themselves seriously in any way, shape, or form, but just strive to tell a really wacky and outrageously bloody tale. If the film had fully embraced that concept, I think it would have been awesome. Personally, I'm a big fan of extreme filmmaking and ridiculous plot points, and the more outrageous, the better. I find it humorous. You go over the top so much, it stops being horrific and starts being funny. So, I actually enjoyed the back half of this film. Well, I hesitate to say the back half. I enjoyed Act 3 because once the reveal fully hits, we are treated to a gonzo finale filled with ridiculous choreography, outrageous physical strengths, and insane quick-cutting cinematography. James Wan handles that shit wonderfully. And the last act of the film has an incredible sense of energy that is 100% lacking from the first two acts. And that's because they didn't embrace the concept from the beginning. We start off with a really wacky, clearly 80s inspired opening sequence with cheesy dialogue like,
It's time. We cut out the cancer.
and then we get like a rock style opening sequence with the credits that seems like they took influence from the opening scene of Seven. This, in this moment, is promising a really outrageous, over the top, but fun film experience. But that's the problem, is the film then switches gears and becomes much more traditional of Wan's take in the Conjuring franchise. It is now a serious, somber, haunted house film. And he embraces that style of filmmaking with long, intense camera shots that make you hold on to what's happening to the character and lingers far beyond the point of being comfortable. And then he cuts away to break the tension. That's classic haunted house filmmaking. That is not grindhouse, pulpy, ridiculous splatter comedy filmmaking. So his changeover from genre is quite jarring. And the first half of the film, in terms of filmmaking, doesn't really fit the back half. They're two conflicting styles of filmmaking. It's almost like Wan, or maybe the studio, was afraid that if they went full gonzo, people would just think the whole thing is stupid. But if your whole concept, a living tumor taking over a woman's body and making her kill people, is that ridiculous, embrace it from the very beginning. Don't kind of like half-ass it and try and make a semi-serious film about a woman doubting her own mental capacity.
Who are you?
You know who I am. Even if they say I'm only in your head.
Because of that, we are given this very odd plot mechanic. Because the film hinges so much on its big reveal at the end, that means our main character can't know what's going on in the beginning. So her whole having visions and thinking she's in one place and witnessing the crime and then being in another, well, it turns out that whole thing is because, since the tumor is part of her brain, he basically locks her personality in a mind prison when he takes over. So it's almost like she's in a dream state where she thinks she's somewhere else, but then when he starts killing people and certain things start happening, it kind of like reality breaks through and she can see what he's doing, but she's unaware that he's using her body to do it. Wan tries a few tricks, few Inception type moments with the world bleeding away and then reality coming in and then her witnessing things. There's some nice cinematography there. But all of that only exists in the film simply because we have to wait until Act 3 to have our reveal. It seems a bit much when you get to the reveal and you go, oh, I could have been having this much fun the whole movie?
How rude.
When you have two conflicting tones and two conflicting filmmaking styles going against each other, it really hurts your pacing. That's another problem with this film. The pacing is all over the place. The first hour feels like 3 hours. And then once we get our actual reveal and we're in the final 20-minute to 30-minute stretch of the film, because we embrace such a frenetic and bloody and action-packed finale, it makes those last few minutes of the film go by even quicker. So I felt like I spent 3 hours of build-up for 5 minutes of payoff. And that ratio does not work well with me personally. I personally think that if this film had embraced what it was from the beginning, and our main character had discovered she had a split personality, and we had gone the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde route from Act 1, that would have given us a much more fun film, and also that gives us a lot more area to play with. It makes this story open up into a ton of different possibilities. Once she's aware of the split personality, once she knows what's going on, we can start having conversations between the two characters much earlier. We can have an internal debate about the morality of what's happening, whether or not she is directly responsible because her consciousness is not there, but her body is the one committing these crimes. There is so much we could do, so many avenues to explore. But when you box the film in by saying we can't reveal this until an hour and a half into the film, you have to basically fill time. And sadly, that leads us to another one of the big problems in the film. And that is the fact that our main character repeats beats over and over and over until we get to the reveal. At one point, she discovers mom knows something about what's happening. So her and her sister travel to mom's house, only to discover that it's part of her, who we think is her imagination, and where she was adopted from, this facility, this old mental health facility. So then because of that, the sister goes to the hospital. But then we don't make our discovery at the hospital. We take the discovery from the hospital back to mom's house and watch a VHS tape which intercuts between sequences of our main character in prison just to drag out this reveal and really hammer home the fact that there is something weird living inside her head controlling her. If we keep hitting this beat over and over and over and over, once we get to the actual reveal, I'm just tired. I'm really just tired.
You've gone back beyond your conscious memories. Can you tell us why you're in the hospital?
The therapist hidden memories moment, again, just feels like the same plot beat being dredged up over and over again. We reveal hidden memories, which prompts us to go to mom, which prompts us to go to the hospital, which prompts us to find the materials, which prompts us to bring it back home, which prompts us to meet it. It's like ridiculous. Make it all happen in one scene. If the reveal happened all at once in one moment, it would have been powerful and it would have fucked with us. But they drag it out for half of the film's runtime. And as I mentioned before, by the time it's revealed, I'm just tired.
We're starting to suspect that Gabriel can somehow access the regions of the brain that process visual stimuli and make Emily see what he wants her to see.
I should have known this a while ago. I actually kind of figured it out halfway through the film. During this chase sequence, I noticed that the way the killer runs and moves kind of looks like a person moving backward. And then I went, oh, it's the back of her head. And that's when I went, that's a wacky, ridiculous, stupid idea. And I wish I was having more fun with it.
Why is no one having a good time? I specifically requested it.
They also introduce a plot point that is completely wasted, and that is Gabriel's ability to control electricity. This is very clearly only there because they realized, again, because our reveal doesn't happen until an hour and a half in, we need this tumor to be able to communicate with people somehow. Therefore, they gave him the electricity controlling bit. It literally is wasted. There's an amazing moment where he kills a guy by setting off his pacemaker in his chest. And that literally was the best use of his ability to control electricity. And when that happened, I went, why hasn't he been doing this the whole time?
Ha, word.
It's another element that is added but then wasted.
This is a bummer, man. That's a bummer.
Hey, remember at the beginning of this whole thing where part of the plot line included a miscarriage? Yeah, that happens about 12 minutes into the film, and then it's completely dropped until the last 10 minutes of the film.
Madison, he killed your babies. He was the cause of your miscarriages. He was feeding off of your fetuses to build himself back up.
It is only used to give our character a power boost at the end, an emotional reason to fight back. It's literally information dumped onto her and given to her at the moment when she needs it most. If you're gonna deal with a thematic subject as heavy as a miscarriage, maybe deal with it and not just have it brought up to be forgotten about for 2 hours, only to be brought up at the very end to be our magic cure-all for our character.
Magic, 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 magic.
Our hero wins by taking over her own brain and controlling her mind and locking Gabriel up into the lamest mind prison I've ever seen. And this movie is over. I wish I had liked it more. I really wanted to like this movie more.
That makes me feel sad. I'm sad.
But I just couldn't get over the conflicting tones and the fact that the film was constantly fighting itself over what it wanted to be.
I wouldn't want to fight me neither.
So, by having two conflicting tones, by having some really out-of-place music, some dialogue that doesn't know which type of movie it's in, honestly, the only good parts about this film are the cinematography / directing and just the overall concept in and of itself. That's a really wacky, ridiculous idea. And I would totally be down for a wacky splatter comedy in which a person argues with a tumor inside their head and then flips over and contorts their body into a backwards killing machine. That screams pulpy Sam Raimi, David Henenlotter, like Brian Yuzna wackiness. And I am all there for that. But the film needs to know what it is in order to fully embrace it. And sadly, this film just didn't really know what it wanted to be. Overall, I would probably give this film a 4.8. There's some really fun ideas at play here. There's some solid directing, but it didn't know what it was. It had a hard time at the start, and it just trips up at the end as well because it doesn't mesh well. And it feels like it's two separate films conjoined at the hip, much like our main character and the tumor conjoined in her head.